this is going to be very therapeutic for me because I'm going to be able to get a lot of that stuff out there that I've been holding in for so long. And if that can help any of you listeners out there that think that maybe you were going something all on your own, that nobody's been there, nobody understands me, if this podcast can reach even just one of you, and by us sharing what we're sharing and the things that we've lived through in life, then it's worth the whole podcast, because you can succeed. You can get out of whatever you're in and make a life and a successful life and be a happy person. And sometimes that means continuing the journey.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are listening to this. Welcome to Everything's Okay. Now, this is a mental health podcast brought to you by Crazy Ant Media, where each week we are going to deep dive into anxiety, depression, and everything else that falls under that mental health umbrella. Today, we just wanted to start off with an introduction episode. You may think you know us from our personas on social media, on the other podcast, on our stories, all the good stuff, but you have no idea. We're going to get so deep on this podcast that we're super excited about, and it's going to be very therapeutic for us, hopefully therapeutic for you guys as well. But we're super excited because our first guest is the one and only author, voice actress, just extraordinaire, Dilana Killick. Oh my goodness. We are so thankful to have you, and you know how much you mean to us. So thank you so much for taking time out of your night to come and get a little crazy with us.
Of course. Anything for you.
Appreciate it. Oh my goodness. But we're super excited because the overall theme of this episode is introductions, having everyone to get to know our backstory a little bit more and to talk about our anxiety about doing the first episode. I don't know about you two, but I'm kind of feeling it. I feel a little tightness in the chest. My arms are a little tingly. I'm not gonna lie, trying to figure out what to do with my hands. But yeah, I'm super excited. Well, really, who wants to go first? That's the real question.
You're on a roll. Why don't you?
I'm on a roll. Dilana, you don't want to go first? No. Okay. Lead by example, I guess. Oh, my goodness. Let me do some shakeouts real quick. Whew. All right. So, James Logan Austin, the man, the myth, the legend. Myself, I definitely, something that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis is depression, anxiety, separation anxiety, and definitely seeking approval from others. I think a lot of that came from my childhood and being from a quote-unquote broken family, a divorced family, trying to, basically pick which persona I was between which household I was at. So trying to figure out and navigate my life from that standpoint, I feel like was kind of who I came to be, in the sense of having all of these different personalities to try to blend in with the room, so to speak. So that really accelerated into my adulthood, and that's something I'm trying to deal with every single day and try to actually find myself and to just, come to grips with who I am as a person and what I like, and not worry about what everyone else thinks, and just trying to do right by my loved ones and the ones I care about. That is very important for me, but in the sense of, trying to find myself and to try to overcome my anxiety and depression and all of these different things that I struggle with on a daily basis. This past year has been very eye-opening for me. There's a lot of different things that we're going to get deeper into as this podcast progresses, specifically, with the mental health and depression. But I've struggled with, suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety, not even knowing that it was anxiety when I was growing up. I just know that I would be in social situations and just be just tightness of chest and feeling like I can't speak. I know sometimes I get into difficult conversations where I feel like I can't say a single word. Like it's all racing in my head, but I cannot literally physically have the words come out of my mouth. So that's definitely something that I've been dealing with this past year and trying to be better about it. I know specifically with you, because I hold you at such a high, like I have you on a pedestal. I'm not even gonna lie, because you're like one of my idols and you're somebody who I look up to on a day-to-day basis. So in the beginning, I was always like, I never want to say anything wrong to this man, because he's literally somebody who I want to, have please every single day and just have them be in a good mood and to always say the right things. But that's just not how life works. And you need to have those conversations. You need to have those difficult topics to talk about. And I think this past year, you and I have gotten to this point where we're starting to realize our own insecurities and our own pitfalls, not necessarily pitfalls. I don't like that word. Things that we can overcome in ourselves that we can help each other overcome. So that is definitely what I've been dealing with this past year. And so there it is. Me, myself, and I, depressed, anxious, and in love. All the good things. This is Romeo and Juliet now. Oh my goodness. But yes.
And we love you.
Yes, I appreciate it. But yeah, that's me, man. That's something that we're going to dive deeper into with these topics that we talk about bi-weekly. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm not talking very much, which is totally out of character for me, because anybody who knows me, my persona is I talk a lot. Mm-hmm. I put everything out there, and I talk with my hands a lot. I'm very animated. I'm very excited all the time. But the fact is that by the way, for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Dustin Bergman. So I don't really put anything out there. I'm actually very reserved. I'm very to myself. And the reason I'm so nervous right now is because, like, with the exception of a couple of people in my life, I don't tell anything to anybody. I keep it all inside, which is a horrible thing to do for your mental health, is to keep everything inside and try to deal with everything on your own. You can't do that. It's impossible to do that, and it eats at you over time. I, like you, depression. I've never had a problem with anxiety. I'm not anxious about anything, and that in itself may be a problem. Maybe you should be anxious, you should be nervous, but I've always approached everything like a freight train. I'm not nervous to enter into anything, and that's a problem in itself. I think sometimes you need to step back and reflect and so that's an issue for me. The depression stems from so many things in my background. The vast majority of my family is dead. I've had to deal with a lot of death in my life early on, throughout. And so dealing with the death, this past year, I've just really kind of started dealing with that. And survivor's guilt stems from that. I have a horrible issue with survivor's guilt. Why am I still here when everybody else is not? And I hammer myself on that one all of the time. It doesn't help that a lot of people in my life felt I shouldn't be here, that the wrong person died. That is something that I have to deal with on a daily basis that causes me great mental anguish. And it kind of plays into what you were just talking about, where you felt like you always had to do the right thing, say the right thing because you were nervous around me. But I built a wall and put out the persona that I could do no wrong, because I was always dealing with the fact in the back of my head that I couldn't let people down. I couldn't fail at anything, because if I let people down, it justifies the reason that I shouldn't be here, that I was the failure, and that why didn't somebody else be able to do it? And from a very early point, I realized I was praised as a kid. I was like, you can do everything. You're the greatest. You're the smartest. You're the best. And you're this. And all of a sudden, that switched in my life, and I was the black sheep, and I was the one pushed aside, and you can't do anything right, and you're a failure, and everything you do is bad. And so I had to build up in my mind that that's not possible. I can't fail at anything. I have to please everybody. I have to make sure that everybody is happy because that's who I am. That's the guy. And that's so hard in life to try to always be the one, always be the guy that takes care of everybody, because we're going to dive deep into that subject on this show too. A lot is what I've had to deal with a lot over my journey over the past several years is self-care, not putting everybody else first. That sometimes, most of the time, you have to put yourself first. And that's not a selfish thing. That's you have to make sure you're okay before you can help other people be okay. And you have to learn that that's the right thing to do. And a lot of people will call you selfish, and a lot of people will come at you for that. But if you don't take care of yourself, you can't possibly take care of other people. And I've had to learn that. It's been a really difficult life for me that I don't really talk about a lot. You know, when you lose your dad at a very young age, I was 8. My brother was 1. We literally buried my dad on my brother's birthday, his first birthday. And you're thrown into adulthood at 8 years old. You know, you have to help your mom support the family. You have to raise this kid because she's working all the time. And sorry about your childhood, but it's gone now. You're an adult, and you're going to have to deal with these things. And I don't know. That was a really difficult process. And throughout that process, and I guess why I'm always putting on the brave face and being happy and not really dealing with a lot of things sometimes, is because everything was so uncertain. So my life became everybody makes fun, and if you guys are fans of the old podcast, or if you know, whatever, is how anal I am and how clean I am and how organized I am and everything. But that grew out of the fact that throughout my young life, there was so much uncertainty. I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't know. There were times in my life where I didn't know where we were sleeping that night. I didn't know if we were going to eat that day. It was a lot. And so I built this idea that everything has to be structured. Everything has to be clean. It's got a place. It's this, because I never felt like I wanted to be in the situation where I didn't know what was going to happen. And that eats at you. There's no such thing as perfection. You can't be perfect. And you have to make mistakes. And I don't know. My background, it just comes from a place where perfection was everything. I had to be. And over this past year, because like you said, we've developed a really good relationship over the last couple of years, actually, where we're drawing out those things. Like, you don't have to be perfect, and you're not always right, and that's okay. And you can forgive yourself. And forgiveness is another mental area that I have a real problem with, like self-forgiveness and forgiving others and holding grudges, and so much that I've been on this journey over the last few years and I'm continuing that journey. And it's just, I feel like I'm really nervous about this podcast because I've never put any of that out there for anybody. Like you, contemplated suicide on more than one occasion in my life, especially after losing my brother, and probably wouldn't be here today if not for a very special person that didn't allow that to happen. I don't know. It's just one of those things that, you know, on a daily basis, you kind of cover up. What do they always say? Like, the person with the biggest smile or the most animated and happy is always the person hiding the most. I feel like that's been me for many, many years. Just the exuberant big smile and the always happy animated. And then I'd go and lock myself in a room and be isolated and alone when I'm away from people. So I deal with that, isolation and forgiveness and just so many different things. Wow, that was a lot. And I haven't ever put anything like that out there for anybody. This is going to be,
it's okay.
This is going to be really, know.
This is spooky.
It is.
It's going to be really difficult. I've never really publicly said anything about how challenging growing up was.
Yeah.
You know, when you're 13 years old, you're wanting to be with your friends. You're wanting to be hanging out, playing sports, doing things. I was digging ditches at our apartment complex to get money off of the rent so that my mom could live there. Those type things.
Yeah.
I never really kind of I don't know. This is going to be very therapeutic for me because I'm going to be able to get a lot of that stuff out there that I've been holding in for so long. And if that can help any of you listeners out there that think that maybe you were going something all on your own, that nobody's been there, nobody understands me, if this podcast can reach even just one of you, and by us sharing what we're sharing and the things that we've lived through in life, then it's worth the whole podcast, because you can succeed. You can get out of whatever you're in and make a life and a successful life and be a happy person. And sometimes that means continuing the journey. Just because you are happy and just because things are going well and everything doesn't mean your journey is complete, right? It's okay. And I think that's the main thing why we name this thing Everything's Okay, because everything is not always okay, and it's okay to not be okay. So when somebody tells you, oh yeah, that's not real, you got to buck up, be a man, do whatever. No, you don't. It's okay to not be okay. And that's where we're going to let you know that everything is okay. And so I just, okay.
So much to dive into. I mean, there's so much, just from both of us. And now the best for last, Miss Dilana. I mean, now we're excited to hear more about you, because not a lot of people know, but you came on this past year, not in 2022, but in 2021, and we're still getting to know you a little bit and to find out more about you personally. I think the dinner we had to celebrate the release of your book, I think we really got a chance to actually sit down and actually have a personal conversation with you, and I think I hold that memory in my heart very near and dear, because it was a good night.
It was a really enjoyable night. And I just got to say right out of the bat, I hope that everybody that's watching and listening is paying attention, that you haven't run away in grand fear
exactly
after hearing everything we just said, which I think goes it goes a great deal in showing the type of person that you are. She's like, holy shit, what did I get myself into? But so let's hear it, Dilana. Let's hear what you got.
Well then. Hi, my name is Dilana. I'm Crazy at Media social media manager, if you don't know. But I relate to a lot of what you just said, Dustin. Like, really. I have had a lot of people say to me, you have such an old soul. Like, that's because I've been through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know, because I'm always the one with the smile. I'm always the one masking how I really felt. And I think a lot of that stems from not having a lot of open communication about feelings growing up, because that's just how my family did things. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're sad, it's like, oh, I'm sorry you're sad, go cry it out or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, we didn't have a lot of talks about mental health or how to deal with being sad, which would have really helped later on, because when I was 13, a family member died, like, that was really close to me, that lived with us, my aunt. And it was really sudden. It was on Halloween. So that was like a holiday ruined. And so many holidays for my entire family have been ruined, because so many of my relatives have just passed on like these certain days. Right. It's really hard during the holidays. But yeah, I wish that we had had more talks. I wish that we talked about mental health and how to deal with it. Because when she passed away, I was very isolated. And I made a realization that I hadn't cried in front of anyone for ever. So after that, it was like ding, light bulb popped up, because I wasn't even crying in the hospital room. Like, all of these people around me are crying, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Right. And people in that room have come up to me why didn't you cry? Why weren't you? And that's such an inappropriate question, right? People shouldn't come up to you and tell you how to grieve. No. And I feel like my entire life, people have been telling me how I should do things. I have a lot of religious trauma. And people come up to you she's in a better place, all of this stuff. And, some people like when people do that. It's comforting to some people, but it wasn't comforting to me. it did not help my mental health at all. It really just told me that, you know, things like this happen and I have to deal with them on my own, because no one's going to hear me out. They're just going to say, oh, she's in a better place. Deal with it on your own. That's just, you have to accept it.
Right.
And for a 13-year-old, it's hard to accept death.
Yeah.
Like,
Very.
so suddenly. But yeah, I grew up in a very conservative, Republican, Christian church, you know, where people say stuff like that. And I considered those people my family. I was dedicated in that church when I was like a little baby. I wasn't even a year old yet. So I had been going to that church for 18 years of my life. I was like singing on the praise team. I was doing all this stuff. I was a big part of the community. And I loved doing that because my friends were there. We had an amazing youth pastor who quit. And I got really upset because, you know, some youth pastors are really judgmental. Even more judgmental than like the head pastor that, you know, like does big church. That's what the little kids call it, like big church. They can be so judgmental because they're trying to like mold your mind into believing a certain way. And I got a lot of religious trauma, like a lot of it, and I didn't realize it until later. I discovered I had like a journey of self-discovery once I entered high school. It was like a whole new playing field. I had been homeschooled since I was in 5th grade, and like going into this school, like meeting new people, I felt like I was, you know, breaking out of my shell. Because up until that point, I had only had friends from like preschool or church.
Right.
And that's all I knew. And we were all raised the same way. Our interests were the same. It was just all the same. And then high school, it's like, whoa, all these people are different. They believe different things. It didn't occur to me until I was in 5th grade that there are other religions out there and not everyone is Christian. Like, can you believe that? And I wasn't even introduced to the LGBTQ community until I met my half sister, because she has 2 moms. I was like, wow, people are like this. I didn't know that was a thing. So yeah, discovering that I was bisexual in high school was very nerve-wracking.
I'm sure.
Because I was already dealing with meeting new people, going into the school. I have major anxiety. It's like, what am I going to do? What is my mother going to think? What are my grandparents going to think? That's like scariest thing in my head, was anyone finding out. So I had to wait until I was like 16. I found out at 14. I had to wait 2 years before I told anyone. And when I did, I was very much judged for it. My mother was amazing. As amazing as you can be when you're also traumatized by what happened to you. But yeah, she was very supportive, and I had my sister. She's like amazing. She's my rock. She's like really the only one I talk to. Because like I said, I don't really cry in front of many people, and she's like one of the few people I will cry in front of. So yeah, I cried to her about it. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? How do I deal with this? But yeah, that was definitely an experience. And then I came out on Facebook, and everyone who goes to my church is on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that happened. And I found out indirectly that I was being kicked off of my praise team.
Oh, wow.
By a pastor who had been preaching at that church half the time that I had been there. Which astounds me. One of my grandmother's ex-church friends, ex now, texted her. And I had no idea what was happening. I came out on Facebook. It was like 2 days later, nothing had happened. I thought, this is fine.
Right.
It's fine.
We're good. We're good.
Nothing bad. We're good. But no. She texted her and was like, I'm so sorry about Dilana. you know, the devil gets into the hearts of so many young people. It's so sad that I won't be hearing her sweet voice anymore on the praise team. And I was like, I'm not dead.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, I didn't die.
You know,
And
I want to touch on that because, you know, the religious aspect to it, right? Like, and I feel like that was I connected to that very well because, like, when somebody dies very close to you, right? You absolutely start to question that. If there is this way, why then did this happen? Why is this the, you know, kind of a thing? And you immediately start to question the religious aspect of everything. And much like what you were saying, I feel that the second that you do, you're judged. How dare you ask such a question? You just have to have faith that it was the right thing that happened. And like all these things are like, who are you to ask these questions? Who are you to say that this might not be right or have any kind of a thought process? And that plays totally into you coming out and all of these things that were like the expectations of others that are placed onto people, the judgment if you don't live up to those expectations, I think plays so heavily into so many people's mental health. Because I feel like it's a society based on expectations from parents, from teachers, from religious leaders, and the second that you don't fall into their category of expectations that they had set for you, not you setting for yourself, but that someone else had set for you, the judgment kicks in and you feel like a failure and retreat, like you said, to isolation. And I think that is a major problem in society today that continues, is that expectation from others that are put on you. And that goes back to the self-care, the being able to take care of yourself first and know that it doesn't matter what those expectations are. You need to worry about you and make sure you're okay with who you are and finding out who you are. I still don't know fully who I am. And I love that you're sharing that you're finding yourself in this journey and that you're like, holy shit, this is real in the world. There's other things. Like,
right.
I think that's huge because I feel like, especially in the LGBTQ community, that there are people hiding, feeling like they're alone and nobody else is like that out there. And for whatever reason, whether it was religious like yours or whatever reason, they were sheltered from it and they feel like, I'm so alone and I can't tell anybody who I am because is there even anybody like me? So you sharing that coming out story and the experiences that you went through for that, I think is going to be huge for so many people. Gay or not, I think it's going to help so many people who are hiding who they really are and let them know that it's okay to show the real you and that there are other people out there just like you. And I think that's wonderful.
Well, I think we're go ahead.
Yeah. It's a big safety issue too.
Yeah.
Because I was very lucky. I was very lucky to have family who, even if they don't support it, I'm not going to get kicked out of the house.
Yeah.
I was really lucky in that aspect. And that's why a lot of people also feel isolated in that respect, because if they come out, they could die.
Literally.
Like, this is a matter of like saving yourself. And it's hard. It's really hard. It's like choosing to, it's like a slow death or being pushed out of the house.
Right.
Like it's choosing like which is the lesser of two evils. And it's very hard. It's very difficult for some people. And I've realized just how lucky I am by other people reaching out, like other people talking about their experiences, like all of this stuff. I was very lucky. I feel like I was very lucky.
Well, and can I just say one thing? And I know you have something to say on the matter of it. It's funny that you say, like, you know, getting kicked out of the house, right? Because one of the things that I've dealt with still to this day is feeling like you're kicked out of the house when you're still in it. Okay? Like you're live there, but you're not there because as far as they're concerned, you've been gone for a long, they kicked you out a long time ago. And while you might physically be there, they could not, it just, every day, That's something that I feel like I have to deal with. Like, this is my family, but is it? Because I feel like I was kicked out of my family a long time ago, and it kicked out of the house, if you will, and that's a terrifying thought and very difficult to deal with every day.
Yeah, most definitely. I think we're at a really good point in time, in history, for mental health, because if you think about just a couple years ago, people are still not talking about it. I feel like the last 3 years, maybe 2, people have really started to put mental health to the forefront, to where we can actually start talking about these things in a normal conversation. Because I know specifically, definitely when you were growing up, be a man, like, don't talk about any of your feelings, like, power through. And I know with not having a male role model in your life to show you how to be a man and to show you how to express feelings, I can only imagine how that was. And with myself, having role models in my life to the point to where I knew when to outgrow these role models, because I knew that if I kept following in their footsteps, that I wasn't going to get anywhere. It wasn't until I was probably 11 or 12 when my stepdad came into my life that I really saw what a true man actually was, and it's okay to have feelings. And there were still some reservations, don't get me wrong, because he also came from that time period where it wasn't okay, and you didn't feel like it was, necessary to put your feelings out there. And you always hear, you bottle it up, and you don't let it out, and that's how you deal with it. But it's not, because when that happens, the glass explodes, and it shatters, and stuff gets everywhere. I loved your, I think it was your New Year's post, where you put the bottle in the bag, and you took all of your insecurities and all of these different things, and you smashed it up in that bag. I think that is such a good representation of what we try to do on a daily basis, to try to get over that hump to where we can start to feel like life is going to be okay. Everything is okay, but we have to smash this little part in our brain that we've been trained to think this way to continue moving forward. I think that's so important. And I mean, what I'm getting at with the generational standpoint is, like, you just now, you're in the day and age to where, well, me too. I'm still young. But you're not.
I'm young.
Yes, you're not young. You're old. You have gray hair.
The mental anguish I get from being called old is just...
It's fine. But like I said, I feel like even kids that are in high school right now are in the prime time of mental health awareness, to be able to talk about this stuff and to be able to have conversation with their friends and, continue moving forward. Like, prime example is my younger sister, who goes through her own battle with depression and different things, and to be able to get help and to have therapy. And because I remember going back, and you think about, because everybody knows we love the entertainment industry, you go back and think about the early 2000s and TV shows and movies talking about therapy, they laughed it off as a joke, or like, oh, you go to therapy and you get super judged for it. But now, like, you should go to therapy. It's always good to have an outside perspective of your life to understand the way you are feeling that's not connected to all of these different people, because that's what their therapists are for. But I just feel like that's so necessary, so you can get it all out, because that therapy is a great way to get it all out and not to bottle it up until it shatters.
Well, there's a couple of things there, like when you said, so when my dad died, I was 7. Right. So, or 8, I'm sorry. And, I cried horribly. I couldn't be at the gravesite. I couldn't be at watching them bury it. And it was horrible. They had to drag me away. And I was sissified. Mm-hmm. I was sissified. Grow up. You need to be the man now. Why are you so, why are you crying so bad? It's kind of a thing. And so, anybody that knows me now, it's like, Jesus, he never shuts up. He's just talking all the time, and he's blah. But after that happened, I retreated. I was a very, very introverted, quiet individual. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't have a whole lot of friends except for 1 or 2. And in school, I only talked when I was spoken to, and I was very just in, right? Because, and I was always considered, a girly boy, a sissy, because I showed emotions early on when my dad died, and it's like, oh, ooh, you know, and so yeah, I don't know, that was really difficult, and so, and I didn't cry again really until my brother died. You know, everybody else that died in my family, all the death that I tried to just put on that stoic, oh, I can get through this kind of a thing. And, you know, and we'll talk way more about my brother and why I was able to cry during that one. But yeah, it became a, I have to be a man kind of a thing. And, you know, it was horrible. And then I was just literally just joking. But another thing that I deal with as I've been getting older, and I'm growing out of this on my journey, thanks to some amazing people who are with me on the journey and guiding me and inspiring me to look inward and do different things. But being old, I was having a really hard time accepting being old because I felt like I was being relicked. Like, what you do with anything that gets old, you shove it aside. It's no longer relevant. It's not necessary. And you kind of, so
yeah,
I laugh.
I remember a few years ago, you would get pissed when somebody would call you old.
Because that's, I feel like I was going through a stage of, I felt like I was being relicked. I felt like people were putting me aside, that what I had to say wasn't relevant anymore. They didn't care about anything I had to say, that you're just this old guy and we don't need you anymore. And yeah, so I was very sensitive about being old. And you would think it would be totally a different thing because so many people have died in my family. My dad at 32, my brother at 19, and I'm still kicking.
Right.
You would think I would appreciate being old. And yet it was the total opposite. I was offended when people would call me old. Like, how dare you? You know, kind of a thing. And it's like, are you kidding? You should be fucking thrilled that you're 52 and not dead like everybody else. And I don't know. I don't know if that was part of the survivor guilt, feeling guilty that I made it this long, or I don't know. But
it's probably so many different pressure points that you're not even just like unaware of yet. Like, so that's, I think that's a big part of what the podcast is. And I think that's going to help us definitely. I mean, unintentionally, this is just therapy for us guys. Thank you for watching and listening. We appreciate all of you. Oh my
gosh. Yeah.
But I think this is definitely, cause like I've been talking about with you specifically over the past week, and especially with you, Dilana, this is going to be a way for all of us to get to know each other better and grow deeper into why our pressure points are our pressure points, you know, like why we are sensitive to some things and why we do think the way we think, and why, like, me personally, I get super anxious and terrified when anybody gets loud. Like, that's just how I was. Arguments, we're loud, you're fucking going at it. Like, it's bad. Arguments were never calm and collected. They were like hardcore bad. But this man is loud as fuck. So I had to adapt to that really quick on how to navigate everything. And that's something over the past few years that we've been able to discuss and talk about.
And it's funny because I feel like just now in this episode right now, you learned why. Yeah, because I didn't have a voice.
Literally.
I wouldn't talk. I was terrified to be loud. Yeah. How dare I speak up? How dare I show anything? And then when I found my voice, I wanted to make sure damn well every fucking person heard it.
Right.
And so it's why I guess my persona is so exuberant and loud and out there, is because for so long I felt like I couldn't have a voice. And so when you find it, I guess, and I'm still really searching for what I want to say and how I want to say it, but I say it loud because I want to make sure that never again do I go back to that point in my life where people couldn't hear me. Yeah. People didn't know I existed because I wouldn't talk. Yeah. I wouldn't say things. And so,
And I think we're at such a critical point, and we're super lucky to come in where we're at in your life, Dilana, because I feel like you're so confident, or at least you present this confidence about you.
Or so you think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All of us have those masks that we put on, those exteriors. All three of us do, and everybody who we're going to talk to on the podcast does. So I'm so happy and lucky and thrilled that we are in contact with you and are working with you to see who you become and to see who you are now and to see your growth in your journey, because I feel like we tell you all the time, the sky is the limit for you, and I'm just happy that we're here for it.
I'm happy I'm here too. No, I'm just a very anxious person, and I think it comes from my life being chaotic.
Yeah.
When I was younger, like before my aunt died, like life was chaos.
Yeah.
Like there was a new thing happening every week. I was so used to the chaos. But like when she passed away, it's like I was running at full force and then I tripped on a rock and fell in the ocean. And everything stopped. And I just felt like everything was going wrong. So I think that's why I kind of didn't want to go to college straight out of high school.
Right.
I needed a break because I needed to get used to life not being chaotic. So when life does become chaotic now, it stresses me out. It makes me feel really anxious. Like doing more than I'm used to makes me very anxious, even if I want to be productive, to make myself feel better about myself. It's like a delicate balance of me getting stressed out because I'm doing so much and not doing enough and feeling like a pile of shit. Didn't do enough.
It's always that weird balance, right? When you are trying to do so much and you have goals for your life and it's always good, but then you feel like you set the bar too high or you set the bar too low, and then like there's no middle ground. You're never satisfied. But there's a difference between not being satisfied like and still chasing it, and not being satisfied and just lying down. So I think that's the difference. And I think all of us deal with portions of, taking little breaks. And I think that is very necessary. Don't get me wrong, but I also think that we all push ourselves to the point where it's necessary that we take a break. And I think that in 2023 is going to be necessary for us to focus on, to where like we shouldn't push ourselves to the brink to where, okay, we can't do anything else. We should just take those breaks, take the time that we need to recover, and then continue moving forward. We shouldn't push ourselves to the limit and then stop. We should just take those minor little breaks, take self-care. Like I've been working really hard on meditating this year.
Meditation is so,
it's like,
if anybody who's out there that doesn't do meditation, if you've never tried it, you should totally meditate. Yeah. Meditation, I've started slowly inching into yoga. Just any type of a moment where you can slow down, take a breath, clear your mind. It's so beneficial. And what you were saying about like, and I know you too, and we're going to dive deep into it. But when you come from chaos, right, you also run into that problem when it's not chaotic. You start to question why. Well, I don't deserve this.
You expect
this.
it.
This is good, right. And I don't deserve good. It's supposed to be bad. It's supposed to be chaotic. That's what my life is. How can this possibly be happening to me? This good stuff. This is all calm, and I'm succeeding, and I'm doing something I always wanted to do. Something's gonna fall apart. It has to fall apart. It's gonna tragically end, and you put that on yourself, and I feel like sometimes when that happens, you cause it to fall apart and break apart because you're manifesting it into reality because you think that's the reality you deserve. And so coming from a chaotic background and learning that type behavior, it leads to more of that type behavior and lifestyle is a hard thing to come to grips with, that maybe you're responsible for some of the chaos yourself, and having to learn to deal with the fact that every decision you make does play into what happens, good and bad. And, I just think it's coming from chaos is, there's a Lord and order, right? Lord, chaos and order. And it's just sometimes you don't understand the good when all you've dealt with is the bad. And it just, I don't know. It's hard.
I think that's why it's very important. That's why I wanted to start off the episode with us three, or start off the whole podcast with us three, is because pain recognizes pain. You can tell when someone's been through something just after one conversation. So I think that was very important and very appreciated that both of you had the courage to even do this. I remember I was anxious to even bring this idea up to you. But we've both been going through a lot on our own journey. So I thought it was necessary for us both personally and for everyone else out there to listen to this so they're not alone.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Like this real exploration and growth journey that I've been on is like a 6-year type thing. Okay. It's been 2016 or so, but it's still a process. It's still hard. And I got to be honest, if this idea had come up a year ago, I wouldn't do it.
Even a year,
I would have said no. This year, there's been a lot of growth. You know, we've known each other for a very long time, and for as long as he's known me, come the day that my brother died, I locked myself away, isolated, could not deal with people, just didn't. And so that's like where it was. And this year was able to finally let that go. And I think that moment in April on his death day, that we made a good day, opened the avenue to allow this to happen. Because sure. I don't think that it was the first time in my life where since my brother's death that I felt like it was okay to take something bad and make it good.
Yeah.
And that it would be okay. And so,
well, I'm not going to lie to you. I saw the baby steps of that because I remember not this past year on it, but the prior year, we actually scheduled an interview for ITCAF, and I saw how that, you know, it changed not the whole day, but it changed the 30 minutes. It changed 40 minutes of your day. And I was like, all right, we got to figure out some way to do this. And I'm just so happy that you put forth the idea of having that special event on that day. So, I mean, it's all about growth. And I think that's what this podcast is going to be for us individually, for you, Dilana, for all the listeners out there. We're just super excited for this upcoming year. It's going to be amazing. I don't want to hold you guys too long because I know it's kind of crazy, but I'm so thankful for both of you. So,
well, agreed. And I just want to cap it with what you just said right there, because sometimes your growth, your light, when you shine, it's going to piss people off. It's going to make people mad. Don't let that stop you. That day when we did that premiere, our film premiere, our red carpet premiere on the day that my brother had died, it was very huge for me and a big breakthrough for me. But on that day, I still had to deal with people telling me I was selfish and how dare I make that day something good for me. Don't let that stop you. Don't let your light be diminished by people who don't understand your journey. I just wanted to cap that because I think that's very important. Don't let people tell you that you can't shine, that you can't grow, that you can't be okay, because those people don't want you to be okay. And you need to know that. And that's a part of the journey. I just wanted to cap it on that. And yeah, to echo, very appreciative for both of you in my life. My circle is very small. It's very tight. And as out there and extroverted as I am now from that introverted child, it's still a very tight circle of people that I trust in my life that I can say things to. And you two are two of them. And it's one hand and you are two of the five. It's a very tight. And so, yeah, I could not be more happy that we're doing this and that you are a part of my journey, because I don't think the journey, it would succeed or continue without my circle. And so, yeah, I love you guys to death, man.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dilana.
Yeah, I love doing this. It was like having a little therapy session.
Yeah.
It's so good. No, it's so good.
I just want to say something that I wish someone had said to me when I was little, when I was a little tyke. Mm-hmm. It's okay to make mistakes. It is totally okay to have stumbles on your road of life. It is totally okay to not be okay.
Exactly.
Because now, as this 20-year-old person, I am realizing that I only expect the bare minimum from people, mm-hmm. but from myself, I expect so much more. And every mistake I make is so draining and gut punching. And it's amazing how much I will shake from just making a small mistake.
Right.
I'm just such a perfectionist with myself, and I just want to say that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay.
Exactly, because everything is gonna be okay. So we got carried away. I will admit, we definitely got carried away. We wanted to give you that first layer of what to expect from Everything's Okay. Thank you so much for getting crazy with us, and be sure to follow the social media accounts. Everything's OKP on social media. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we wanted to let you know that the first episode of, the regular returning season will be February 1st, because there's a lot of things going down in January with Crazy Ham Media. But we just wanted to let you know on February 1st, we'll be back. And then after that, we'll be releasing bi-weekly episodes. We just wanted to give you that update. Thank you so much for listening to us. It definitely means the world to me. I know it means the world to you.
Without doubt. And what I think is going to be really interesting for all of y'all out there is now how you look at us on ItCaf podcast. Right? Like, because you're going to see that podcast from a whole different light, because you're going to be getting to see that us and then this us. Yep. And I think that it's going to be great for both podcasts. I think it's going to be great for this one. It's going to be great for the other one, because you'll get to know us on a level that it's going to be amazing. And thank you so much for just taking this journey with us. And I'm still nervous. I'm still when have you ever seen me like rubbing my hands?
It's crazy, man. It's crazy, man. Well, I love you, man.
Yep, same.